Is that considered off-road?
Drive, your source for automotive reviews, analysis, and maintenance.
Hi, and welcome to Drive, your source for automotive reviews, analysis, and maintenance. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video. Hi, my name is Chris Capredoni, and the car behind me that I'm featuring today is a 2013 BMW X5 xDrive 35i. Now, what the X means is that's the symbol that BMW has used to indicate all-wheel drive vehicles, and that applies to all models in BMW. So what they've done is the front differential is permanently engaged. You can't disengage it like a four-wheel, two-wheel drive vehicle. The X5 was designed in the mid-1990s by Frank Stephenson, and he was a designer that has worked for companies like BMW, Ferrari, McLaren, Maserati, Alfa Romeo, Fiat, Mini, and Lancia. He's actually considered a leader in his generation, so a pretty brilliant man to have touched the early beginnings of this segment and this car. The X5 was introduced back in 1999, and for the 83-year-old brand, it was a very important introduction for BMW to attempt to expand the brand into the globally growing SUV market. Now, what they had to do was design a vehicle that played in that market, but obviously was very BMW. So this was a niche vehicle for BMW. So they wanted to build an attractive SUV which emphasized performance and handling, which all BMWs are known for. The first generation was from 1999 to 2006, which was more understated than the second generation behind me, or even the current version that's out right now. The newer ones, they're full of complicated lines, creases, curves, and vents, both functional and fake. But the original one was more of a plain design, but very attractive, and a design that actually looks very still attractive today. That was actually known as the E53 chassis. This one is the E70 chassis. So the E53 was the first BMW SUV ever introduced. Before of X3, X7, all the X's, the X5 was the trailblazer in this market. So this vehicle had to hit a home run for BMW in the very lucrative SUV market. So let's get to the part that I am most interested in. It's my favorite part of any vehicle. It's the BMW engine. This is what makes a BMW a BMW. So the X5s came with three engine options: the 3-liter inline 6-cylinder turbo, the 3-liter inline 6-cylinder turbo diesel, and then the big one, the 4.4-liter V8 twin turbo. So this one has the 3-liter gas turbo engine. It's a single turbo. I know on the vanity cover here it says twin power turbo. That does not mean there's two turbos. What that means is actually the turbo that's attached to it is a Borg-Warner B03 twin scrolling one. So there are two propellers inside that create that turbo. The engine is actually, this engine actually spans over several BMW models, not just, it's not exclusive to the X5. So you can find this model in the 1 Series, the 3 Series, the 5 Series, the X6, and the X1 Series. So what BMW has done is they've developed this engine, and then they've spread their fixed costs over a number of different models in order to make this engine more efficient from a financial perspective for the company. But it is a very good engine. It does have its problems, which I'll get into later. It's a 300 horsepower unit, stock, and that equates to 317 pound-feet of torque, or 430 Newton meter. It will redline at 7,000 RPM, but if you are going to touch near that area of 7,000 RPM, you should make sure that you do not put this car away wet. And what I mean by that is driving it hard and then stopping it. You need to allow the coolant and the oil to circulate in order to dissipate some of the heat that you've generated by hitting those high RPMs. So never put it away wet. This engine is made up of mostly aluminum. The head and the oil pan are both aluminum, and the cover is a high resin plastic, and I'll show you where it is. It's under here. So this is where the valve cover is, and this top part here is a heavy-duty reinforced plastic, and that's been put in place to reduce weight, and that increases fuel economy. Now, getting back to the peak output power of 300 horsepower, these cars can be tuned very easily up to 400 horsepower with moderate modifications. One of the easiest ways to increase power by 80 horsepower at the crank or 60 at the wheel is by going with a company that has a plug-and-play tuner called JB4. It's a JB4 tuner that comes, it's like a box that can be easily installed into your vehicle, and it has the firmware which overrides the original programming of the ECU to allow you to increase your horsepower. And that can be achieved without any sort of additional wear and tear on your engine, which is a very important point in maintaining the longevity of an engine. The compression ratio on this car stock is 10.2 to 1, which is pretty average for an engine of this size. Again, it's at a compression which tries to marry performance with longevity. So I can see what BMW was trying to do with their compression rate. And of course, that is achieved using premium unleaded fuel. You can go to mid-grade, but I wouldn't recommend it. That could lead to pinging later on in the engine's life. This vehicle here, like many vehicles of today, is a double overhead configuration with 24 valves, so 4 valves per cylinder. And this car has what's a variable intake system. It's located right down in here. It's very easy to access, and what they call it is it's a variable valve timing, but it's a Vanos solenoid, and that is used to control the timing of the lift of the valve stems. And that should be replaced every 5 to 7 years. If you're going to buy one used, the first thing I'd want to do is replace that and the crankcase sensors as well. They are magnetic in base and will fail. It's always best to be preventative and replace them every 5 years in order to ensure that you will not have any issues, or a code will come up that will indicate that it went bad. Now, this engine does not have a traditional dipstick. What BMW has done instead is there is an electronic oil sensor which is located in the oil pan, and it goes up into the oil pan. And what it does is when the temperature of the oil reaches a certain temperature, it will measure its oil level. And on the dashboard, you can actually view the level of your oil, or when you will need to top it up. If there's a sudden drop, it'll indicate there. So there is no dipstick that you can use. A lot of people find that interesting, but more and more vehicles are going that way. The oil filter is located right under here, and that is very easy to change. I'll show a picture of the tool that you need to unscrew it, and it just pops in. Oil changes are relatively simple on this car. All you need to do is replace the filter at the top, drain, take the plug out at the bottom, replace all of the gaskets, and then fill it up. The oil that I use and that is recommended is full synthetic. I wouldn't put anything else but synthetic. And currently right now in this vehicle is a 0W40, but you can use a 5W30 as well. So stick to those two types of oils and you'll get the maximum lifespan out of your engine. Other notable parts of this car, here's the fuel rail. It's not one piece, it's actually made up of 6 pieces attached to a center rail. So it's not an all one unit. You actually have to put it together separately. So when you're replacing the valve cover gasket, you will need to disassemble it. One of the parts that actually should be replaced probably every 2 years, and you most likely break it when you do the work, like replacing either the valve cover or the gasket, is this piece of equipment here. And what that's called is the positive crankcase ventilation hose. Over time, they're very thin plastic, and over time, if you move them, they crack. And then once they crack, it creates a breach in the system, and a code most likely will be registered that you'll have to clear and fix. Parts are widely available from dealerships or from part suppliers, retailers, or from online sources like Rock Auto. I use Rock Auto quite a bit. They carry a vast selection of body and engine parts, for not just for the X5, but for all BMWs going back to the 70s. The dealership, though, may be your only source for specialty pieces, such as shaft seals for differentials or transfer cases. Don't get frustrated if you can't find it elsewhere. Just go to the dealership. They've always got them in stock, and they're relatively, for what they are, they're relatively priced. And so they're economical. Okay, as I originally indicated, in addition to the Vanos sensor that needs to be replaced on a regular basis, the 2 camshaft position sensors also need to be replaced every 5 to 7 years, and they're located just underneath the valve cover, at the top of the head. And it's very easy to replace them if you remove this cross member support and also remove the radiator fan, which only takes about 5 minutes. But what that gives you when you remove all of this is about 15 centimeters of workable space. You can easily put any sort of ratchet with an extension in there. Also, you can access the pulleys in order to change the belt very easily without fighting with it from below. You can easily access it from the top, especially if you're a tall guy. You just have to reach in and do your work. And like I said, to remove the fan, it's a 5-minute job. There are 2 clips, 1 connector, and it slides right out. So under here is the cabin air filter. So what you can do is, it's very easy to remove this cowling, remove it, and you can access the 2 filters that are there. You can either replace them, or I find that if you have a very good vacuum, you can vacuum them out if they haven't discolored and reinstall them, so you can get maximum life out of those filters. Under here is the air filter. Again, it's a system of just removing a bunch of Torx screws. It lifts right off, and then you can access and replace the filter. That filter I would not recommend vacuuming. I'd only recommend putting in a new clean one. I'd probably do that every 1 to 2 years, depending on your climate, your driving habits. If you want to be on the safe side, replace it once a year. The alternator is located on the far side, just below where the oil filter is. They aren't typically known to fail, but if you do need to replace it, it involves removing the air filter housing, and you can access it. It's probably a 3 to 4 hour job. I've done it before. It's not too difficult, but you need some skill. The spark plugs are all located here, and in order to replace the number 1 and the number 2, you will have to remove this cross member and all of this cowling up here in order to properly access it. There are ways of accessing it with wobbly ratchets, but the way that I'm recommending, it's worth the extra time, the extra 20 minutes to remove all of this cowling so that you can actually have a direct path to the spark plug, so you do not risk stripping the threads or introducing it on an angle which would require it to be retapped, and that would be very expensive. So it's worth the extra time to remove all the obstacles out of your way and then access it that way. BMW or mechanics do charge anywhere from $400 to $600 to replace the spark plugs. Again, it's something that's very easy to do. If everybody wants, I can put a video up of that. I can actually demonstrate and save yourself several $100s.
No engine is perfect, and the BMW X5's N55 engine is no exception. The problems that occur with this engine aren't due to any sort of design defects. They all revolve around age and or mileage. And the top 7 issues that you most likely will face in owning this vehicle long term will be: number 1, the valve cover and or valve cover seal, the gasket. Over time, the heat degrades the rubber and they lose their flexibility and become brittle and crack. And this allows oil to breach the engine. This typically will occur after 7 to 10 years of use. And at the same time, it's a good idea to replace the positive crankcase vent hose since you are removing the cover. This job typically costs between $1,000 to $2,500 depending on where you go to get the work done. Also, at the same time, you should replace the spark plugs. That's about a $500 job, but you will need a thin wall socket. Water pumps also have been known to fail, and that's a $400 to $1,000 part. Labor, you can expect to pay for about 6 hours or invest 6 hours of your time in order to replace the water pump. The oil filter gasket housing, again, the gaskets over time will become brittle and crack. Fortunately, they are very inexpensive, and labor is about 2 to 4 hours. And at the same time, you can replace the oil filter and the oil as you replace those gaskets. Another issue is the variable valve timing solenoid. You should replace it automatically every 5 to 7 years or 100,000 kilometers, 60,000 miles. Also, the high pressure fuel pump may fail. That is an expensive part. You should budget about $1,000 and about 4 hours worth of labor. The oil pan gasket usually leaks near the transmission. It's a very difficult job. You need to remove the drive shaft, the passenger side drive shaft, the subframe, and disconnect the rack and pinion mechanism and intercooler. At that time, when you drop the subframe, it's probably a good idea to replace the 2 engine mounts since you have access to them. And this job is quite expensive. Budget $3,000 to $4,000 and about 15 hours worth of labor. The worst gasket to be replacing is the head gasket. That is a very difficult and expensive job, easily costing $4,000 to $7,000 for all of the labor involved. The good news is this can be done without having to remove the engine. You remove the valve cover and then you can remove the head in order to access the gasket. This is about a 12 to 15 hour job, and it's not recommended for a novice to do. If you don't have experience working on engines, I would recommend you go to a licensed mechanic in order to have this job performed. I personally love the styling of all X5 generations. I've been told though that the E70 is the most popular of all the generations. It's well proportioned, has a Coke bottle silhouette, so it's bottom heavy in its design, and has a very good wheel height to overall height ratio, even with 19-inch wheels. If BMW had asked me to sketch out my dream SUV shape, it would not have been far off what they came up with. The coefficient of drag for the E70 is 0.034, which is very good. This was accomplished with a very flat underside and also a low front surface area, especially for a vehicle of its bulk and size. The low stance was designed with style and performance in mind, and they certainly achieved that.
So here we are in the BMW interior. As you can see, it's a very warm and inviting environment, very BMW-ish in its design. And after almost 10 years, it's very attractive and pleasing to the eye. The materials throughout the cabin are very high quality and durable. You won't be disappointed with the fit and finish. It's impeccable, actually. Some of the unique features and very useful features are it has the heads-up display, which is very useful in all light environments. The materials, as I said, are very high quality, from the dash to the steering wheel. The buttons and knobs are all very high quality in their feel, and the seating surfaces are beautiful. These are a combination of leather and vinyl, which are very, very comfortable, supportive, and durable. Again, this car comes with a panoramic sunroof, which is not open, but that goes right to the rear seats. The system that has been criticized in the past, and actually currently, is the iDrive system, which is the heart of the infotainment system and controlling all the vitals of the vehicle. But the iDrive system, compared to other manufacturers, is an actual joy to use. So I would not get discouraged in not purchasing an X5 based on the iDrive's inefficiency, because that's just a falsehood. It's not true. Do not let that sway your decision in purchasing an X5. If you want to do your own diagnostics, which I do, just like in every other car, underneath the driver's seat steering wheel, there's an OBD2 port that you can use to read codes or program. I don't have it on me, but I'll show you a picture of the Carly system, which is a manufacturer that provides a scanner that you can use with your phone that also allows you to do tuning to your vehicle. It's a subscription-based service. Check it out if you like it. I find it very useful to read codes that a traditional OBD2 scanner will not read. Some will not read BMWs at all, so you're going to have to get something specially suited for BMW. Overall, I would say that the interior is very good. I do like the transmission, very unique design, but it works very well and very communicative. It also allows you to switch from a fully automatic to semi-automatic, where it'll allow you to engage drives up and down at your discretion. The rear seats are a very useful area for children or even adults. I'm not very big. I'm 5.5 feet tall, but someone that's well over 6 feet has plenty of room to sit and plenty of knee room to sit back here. The interior has its own rear controls for air conditioning, audio, everything like that. Again, the sunroof will extend up to the rear seat, so the rear seat passengers can enjoy the sunroof as well. In the center, there is an armrest, and through here is a pass-through. So if you want to carry long items or skis or something like that, if you're into home DIY, pipes or 2x4s can fit through here. If you have too many, you can just fold the seats down and run them through with the seats folded down. The materials, again, are all leather, very durable. This car is almost 10 years old, and it looks like the day it was manufactured. Very comfortable environment, useful environment. Again, a pro if you're interested in buying this car to travel around with your family. So this is the trunk area of the X5. It's a very usable space, very large and generous. And even with the liftgate closed, the angle of the rear glass does not rob a lot of space for bulky items. They've designed it in a way that it intrudes minimally. The lower liftgate, which I'm sitting on, lowers down, and that allows you to put bulky or heavy items in more easily. The newer BMWs, this is power operated. In this generation, it's manually operated. The liftgate here, this is power actuated. That was right from the first generation. Below the base of the trunk, there is a sub-trunk area, and that's used, you could use that to store non-regular items that you carry around, like maybe some oil or a jump starter, or valuable items that you want to keep away from prying eyes. One thing that you will notice in this vehicle is that it does not have room for a spare tire, and that's because X5s run exclusively on run flat tires. They are better in the sense that they will allow you to drive anywhere from 50 kilometers, 30 miles to an area where it's either secure or to a garage to have it fixed. The downside is that run flat tires are much more expensive, and the selection of run flat tires is not as much as traditional tires. Getting back to the cargo capacity, the X5s have 645 liters of storage space. That is almost as much as the class-leading car, which is the Mercedes-Benz GLE, which has 690 liters of storage space. The rear seats both fold down, they split 40-60. With both of them split down, storage capacity increases to 1,860 liters. The Mercedes-Benz, when they are folded down, has storage capacity of 2,010 liters, so a little bit more. The X5 front suspension is a double wishbone system. It's all aluminum, and it's been developed by BMW's racing over the last several decades. It's very stable and stiff enough for aggressive cornering, yet not so much that it creates a poor ride quality. The X5's rear suspension is a multi-link system, which provides proper aggressive handling, but also maximizes interior cargo space. So they had to weigh the two important factors in owning this vehicle, which was performance driving, yet it's being utilitarian in nature. All X5s come standard with four-wheel disc brakes all round. Standard also is ABS. The calipers are a double piston design, which is better than a single piston. Creates more surface area with the brake pad hitting the disc. So heat dissipation is a lot better, and braking distances are a lot shorter. The rotors in the front are 332 millimeters or 13.1 inch, so that's the bigger one. And in the rear, they're 320 millimeter or 12.6 diameter in the rear. There's also a wear pad sensor on the driver's side. So when you do replace the pads or the rotors, you will need to replace that sensor. If there are a lot of videos on the internet on how that is done, but if there's enough demand, I'll show you, I'll make a video on how that's done. To replace the rotors or the pads, or even do service on the calipers, again, there are a lot of videos on the internet to guide you. Some of the tools that you will need to replace the calipers are Torx bits. I'll show a picture of them. Also, it's advisable that you replace the brake fluid on a regular basis. My recommendation would be at a minimum of every 2 years, because brake fluid is hygroscopic, which means that it absorbs moisture, and water cannot be compressed in the same way that hydraulic fluid can. So it will lengthen your stopping ability. Not to mention, water in your brake lines will have the tendency to start creating corrosion in areas that you don't want corrosion to accumulate it. The X5 on some country roads, so I can open it up. The car has very good acceleration, 0 to 60 in approximately 6 seconds. I think the factory says 6.2. Let's try that out. Yep. Steering is very responsive. I can turn the steering wheel from side to side. I have full control at this speed. Lateral acceleration, by the way, is 0.81 Gs, which for a car that is 2.5 tons and has a very high center of gravity compared to something like a 3 Series or an M5. The control is phenomenal. Also, it matches the class-leading vehicle at the time, which was the Porsche Cayenne Turbo. So at that time, it didn't have a rival with respect to lateral G-force. Braking is also excellent. As I had mentioned earlier in the video, has 4-wheel disc brakes, 2-piston calipers. Let's give that a shot right here. Very controlled. I didn't feel any drift, any fade. Today is dry, but I have driven this car in wet weather, and it replicates the same level of control. Let's take it out again. You can really hear the throttle open up. There are 2 exhaust pipes. One has an actuator in it that opens up to allow better engine breathing. And when you hit the acceleration hard, you can hear that extra note coming from the other tailpipe, which really sounds aggressive. It doesn't burble like the newer ones, but you can really hear it rumbling in the interior of the car. Very nice feeling for a car, actually, you know, that's a performance vehicle. Transmission is an 8-speed automatic, which allows you to move it into manual mode, so that you can control or decide which gear you would like to move it into to go a little bit more aggressive. I usually don't do that, because I find that the transmission is mated very well with the 6-speed or the 6-cylinder engine that's in this vehicle. I really don't feel the need for it, but I guess if you do take it out on that track, you'll want to open it up a little bit more and control your level of acceleration and braking. And again, I have to iterate that this car is 2.5 tons. This is not a lightweight. It handles the road, bumps, very well. I'm going to open it up again. Yeah, it hits there. It hits 100 kilometers an hour very easily. And again, this is all in an environment that's very usable, quiet, comfortable, stable. Everything that you'd want to have in a vehicle that's a performance SUV. Even by today's standards, this would still be relevant with respect to how BMW tuned the suspension to live with both worlds, one being a performance-minded vehicle and the other one being a family hauler or equipment or other things that you'd want to move around in this vehicle. Overall, my impressions are this car is very fun to drive. I enjoy driving it. There's nothing really that I can say negatively that would convince me not to purchase this vehicle. And I would highly recommend it to anyone that's looking for an attractive vehicle that handles well, capable, has the utility that's needed in everyday life. It's a real winner.
The X5 operates using premium unleaded 91 octane fuel. You can get away with using 89 octane, but with older engines, it's best to have the 91 octane in order to avoid pinging in older engines or broken in engines. Its mileage is, it gets 19 miles per gallon or 12.4 liters per 100 kilometers. So it isn't considered a gas guzzler, but it certainly isn't miserly either. That's not the reason you purchase this vehicle, but compared to its peers, it's average. Just to put this all into perspective, US gas prices in the 1960s were around $2.89 per gallon in inflation adjusted dollars. Today, it's $4.90 US, so an increase of 41%. Equivalently, in Canada, it's not much different. In the 1960s, a liter was 90 cents in today's dollars. Today, regular unleaded is $1.65 a liter, so roughly the same percentage increase. What all this means is every auto manufacturer, including BMW, is working towards increasing fuel economy. And the two primary ways that can be achieved is, number one, design engines to use less fuel, or two, reduce weight through the use of aluminum and advanced plastics, which BMW has really jumped on board in strategically putting plastics wherever they can in order to reduce the gross weight of their vehicles. The 2013 X5 had plenty of direct competition as the mid-size SUV market was extremely competitive, with every manufacturer attempting to build market share in one of the biggest segments in the automotive market. The only segment that was and still is larger is full-size pickup trucks. In no particular order, the X5 competed for sales with the following SUVs: Acura MDX, Audi Q5, Volvo XC90, Range Rover Sport, Porsche Cayenne, Lexus RX 350, Infiniti JX, and the Mercedes-Benz 320 GL. The X5 was a very appealing choice, and many buyers selected it for its combination of performance, comfort, and quality. Now comes the time for me to evaluate the BMW X5 35i based on the following areas. Handling. One of the best handling and performing SUVs in the market, I'd rank it a 9 out of 10. Styling. The X5 is very attractive and appealing. That is almost timeless. Other manufacturers look to emulate the X5's beautiful lines and proportions. I'd rank the styling 8.5 out of 10. On to safety. The X5 comes well equipped with many safety features, including 6 airbags, rollover sensors that trigger those airbags, impact sensors that activate the battery safety terminal, preventing electrical sparks, and front safety belt tensioners that are automatic pre-tensioners. Safety, I would rank it 8 out of 10. Reliability. All BMWs need to be maintained or they become big, expensive liabilities. Anyone purchasing one needs to proactively maintain them. Expect to budget anywhere between $2,000 to $2,500 per year just for maintenance. Utility. Very usable vehicle with lots of cargo capacity, but it's just not the class leader. So I would rank it 7 out of 10. Overall, the X5 ranks 8 out of 10. I would buy one again and again. In conclusion, the E70 X5 was and continues to be a very capable and usable SUV worthy of your purchase. One caveat is I recommend you not purchase an X5 new. The biggest cost of ownership by far with all premium vehicles is depreciation. I recommend you purchase a well-maintained 2013, or if you want a newer model, purchase one that is 18 to 60 months old. That way you transfer the expense of depreciation to the seller. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thank you.